Hi, I'm Tracey L. Fisher. Welcome to Unapologetic. I'm here with my girl, Keir Bradford-Grey, from the Defender's Office right here.
How you doing?
I'm doing great. My audience want to know, straight to the point. What is it that you do?
Well, we do a lot of things, but at the heart of what we do is we represent people who are charged with criminal offenses who cannot afford a lawyer. So whether you're a child, and I mean a child, from 10 years old on up until you are, unable to understand what's going on. Right. We represent you if you are charged with a crime. And it's crazy that kids at the age of 10 years old can be charged with a crime. But yes, that's
what type of crime they be charged with? Like as far as like a 10-year-old?
Right. Well, so 10-year-olds, generally those under 12 would be charged with something more heinous. Like if something happened where, there was a boy who accidentally shot his brother.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I still think criminal charges are really weird for that age because your mind hasn't really developed to understand the nature of your actions or the consequences of your actions. I think more of these children at 10 years old need more therapeutic services when things like that happen, because it has to be a result of their environment. But this is where we are. This is the reality that these kids are generally stuck into the system.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you know what? I just toss it around. We're gonna get straight to it. First of all, let's talk about the white privilege on steroids in the Capitol.
Great topic.
Yeah, that's right. What you think of that?
Well, I think now we have not only black people have always had that understanding that there are two different ways that we are treated by our justice system. And we say it, we marched, we've seen examples, here and there that allowed us to validate our feelings. Well, Wednesday was validation on steroids. And it's validation that you can never take back because it is totally on tape. When you talk about the response, the discretion, the de-escalation, the whatever it was that people had for those who were coming in there upset because they lost an election. And that's what they did.
Right.
I can't see how you can take 5 steps backwards and do things that you've been doing to our communities without hesitation now that this has happened. Because now you're going to be subject to equal protection, disproportionate treatment arguments in the law. Absolutely. And so these are going to be used as examples of how government gets it right when it comes to certain folks, but when it comes to us, it's almost as if there are no other choices, are no other avenues, and we can be annihilated if we pose the slightest threat.
So how you think it would have turned out if that was Black Lives Matter up there?
Well, Black Lives, they would have been already ready for it, right? So if they heard a whisper that Black Lives Matter was going to come up there, not that, Black Lives Matter couldn't advertise it for weeks, telling us, just like they did, telling everybody what they were going to do, and expect no consequences at all. I mean, I think if Black Lives Matter would have advertised it the way the others advertised it, they would have probably been stopped at their houses.
Wow. Before they got in the cars.
Oh, yeah. I mean, there are those. That does happen, when someone does things or puts things or promotes or incites violence or riot, people are investigated and brought in before they're even able to effectuate it.
Now, far as the arrest that took place, now,
what
speaking
arrest?
to you,
Wait,
that's great. Set that up.
Okay.
Now, speaking to you, where you were saying how it's people that's still arrested right now from just the riots around here, walking up and down the street, that hasn't even been charged or whatever situation may be, compared to that nonsense that went on down there at the Capitol.
Yeah.
What do you think of that?
So,
what's the percentage? Like, how many people here in the city compared to that up there?
I'm glad you asked that question. So my office represents protesters from the summer, from George Floyd, and from the fall for Walter Wallace. We represent over 450 people that were arrested for protesting, for doing whatever. Many of the narratives of the arrest reports don't even know what they did. And so this is what I mean when we're talking about people are just, the controlling of black bodies and making sure that we are put in our place through the hands of law enforcement reigns supreme. So when we're out there, and even if we're peacefully protesting, even if we're just saying words, we don't have weapons, we're not doing anything, there is a way to keep us in our place by using law enforcement to control us. And so this is what we see from a lot of the protest case that we have. Not that there's nothing happened, but the amount of people that were arrested, a large percent of them were black. A large percent of them had never been arrested before, so had a clean record. Many of them were charged with just generally conspiracy because there was no real narrative of what they actually did but be out there. And I'm sorry, when I have 75% of the people that are black that were arrested for the protest, and I know I was watching TV, and I saw all kind of colors of people out there, you know, rioting, setting things on fire, you know, walking around with shopping carts full of clothes. How does it become over 70% of the black people are arrested and charged with felonies, and, you know, others are just kind of...
And the charges came from the district attorney office. Am I correct?
Yes. Yes.
So what is Larry Krasner saying about that?
Well, that's something that we've been talking with him ongoing. And so one of the things that I have challenged Larry about is to understand that there are civil rights moments that have been bubbling up because of a long-standing anger towards the way people have been treated. Right? You don't just have these protests for nothing. Like, we don't protest because we lose an election.
Right, exactly.
We don't protest because we lose a baseball game or a basketball game.
Right.
We don't set things on fire for those things. We are really demanding attention to the way we've been treated and marginalized and just, you know, annihilated on TV. And so what I asked Larry to do is understand that this moment really calls for a civil understanding of what happened. And so is there a way that we can not brand people, especially people who are out there, we don't even know what they really did, they're charged with felonies and they have no prior record, but they're going to be branded for life as a felon because of a civil unrest moment that doesn't happen all the time. So I said, is there a way we can do diversions for people? You know, look, there are business owners that had, you know, harm done to them. Is there a way that we can do a program where we prepare the harm? You know, make them whole, those who didn't have insurance, those who suffered a lot of loss because, you know, they were a small business, figure out how we make them whole. Well, my office looked at grants and all kinds of funding to help pay small business owners in black communities or wherever that lost, you know, a lot because of the riots. And we found that there was a fund of about $1.6 million. We presented that to Larry and said, hey, you know, if you were able to give them a diversion, these business owners could be made financially whole. And they would just have to, you know, do community service or do things that help them understand what the damage they cause to communities. This has been a discussion since July. We have no resolution to this. The district attorney is saying that he's moving that way, but every time we present an amount of money, the ball moves, and we're told now we need an additional $1 million to make businesses whole and for him to give protesters diversions that will not stain them for life.
Now, did he say where this additional $1 million supposed to come from?
No, he wants us to find it. So one of the things that we're asking Larry is to team up with communities and, you know, ask them what they really want. You know, there's a lot of business owners like Jeff Brown. He doesn't want anyone to have to go to jail. He just wants to make sure that people understand that his business was damaged. I mean, Jeff Brown has insurance, but I don't know if his insurance went up because of that. Whatever his damages are, let's try to figure out how to make him whole. He gets the situation, but he wishes that, you know, either way, it didn't have to happen. But, you know, we are where we are. And I don't think we can look at one area and say, well, the riots caused this destruction and they shouldn't have done that. But look at the behaviors that created that, that were ignored for years, that created that moment. And there's fault on both sides. And that's why one side should not be stained for life, while the other side continues to keep going the way they were always going. And I mean, law enforcement.
Exactly. Speaking of law enforcement, it was a case you was talking about, the young lady.
Yes.
What happened with that? My audience, you know, bring them up to speed to that, about a young lady that was falsely accused or whatever happened.
Yeah. So her name is Cassandra Franklin, and my office currently represents that case. And so while that case is not, high profile in terms of a homicide case, or it's not high profile in terms of something, sexy, to me, it's very high profile in terms of the abuse of power and white privilege that exists in real positions of trust. And that is a district attorney's office who has the power to bring us in this system, who has the power to bring the weight of the government against us, who has the power to really destroy our opportunities financially, economically, or whatever, because we are now branded with a conviction that allows people to legally discriminate against us.
Right.
So this situation happened with one of Larry Krasner's top district attorneys. He was the chief of homicide. He was actually the district attorney on the case against Michael White.
Oh yeah, that's my man, Michael White.
Yeah, that's the case that I represented, right. Michael White, and I tried. So this was the district attorney that tried that case for the DA's office. He was coming home from a homicide scene, and he was on Kelly Drive, and he ran into a young lady who was in a car on Kelly Drive, and I guess the woman swerved into his lane and, made him move over. Classic traffic situation. Right. He gets very upset at the fact that if she cut him off at best, and starts to chase her down, tells her to pull over, tells her that he's law enforcement, parks his bike in front of her car so she can't move. And, this is in the wake of Ahmaud Arbery and all this stuff. You can't tell me to pull over. You're making you're making an arrest. I don't know where you are. You don't have any police gear. You don't have any badges. He's on a Harley motorcycle with a black leather jacket. I'm not pulling over for you either.
Nobody is.
And this is a 24-year-old girl and her friend in the car, and they were very scared because he was acting extremely erratic, calling them names, cursing at them, riding on his motorcycle side to side. So they take off. They do not stop for him. Well, he calls his homicide detective friends, brings them to her home, where they stay there looking in her car, looking around for about 4 to 5 hours. She's in the home saying, what did I do? This is all on tape. Like, what did I do? Her friend's like, were you speeding? Like, they don't even know what they did to warrant this action. Well, lo and behold, they finally then arrest her, impound her car. Larry originally charges her with felonies. Those get dropped once the case is transferred to the Attorney General's office because of the conflict. The Attorney General currently has the case. She is being charged with misdemeanors, and I believe that the Attorney General is going to do the right thing about this case. Right. But what it does show, and I kind of equate it to Central Park Amy, right? Because what we saw with Central Park Amy was a woman who weaponized her privilege. And because she was upset at the interaction that a person, how dare you tell me what to do with my dog? Right. And this is similar. You're sitting, me and you, if we're in a traffic situation or someone cuts us off, you maybe give them the middle finger, give them an evil look, whatever, and keep going, right? We don't get to call our police friends and have them go to the person's house, arrest them, charge them, have them sitting in jail, calling other counties to revoke bail. We don't get to do that because we don't have that power. And even if we did, I don't think we would ever use it because we understand what that means. This man actually took it to those further steps. And so not only is it a weaponizing of his privilege, it's abuse of his power. And he should not be sitting in that office with a progressive DA who claims that they know what this system means to black and brown people in terms of how it damages us. And you allow that to go on. Because that is classic mistrust to me.
So where is it at right now? Far as now, you talking about Josh Shapiro has it right now, right? And he's looking at it far as, because from what I'm told, him and Larry don't get along anyway.
I don't know.
I'm just saying. We keep it real here. Unapologetic. I'm unapologetic. Anybody that know me, because I'm independent, I don't owe nobody nothing. The bottom line is him and Larry do not get along. And Josh said that Larry sometimes make dumb moves. This is what he said. Now, I mean, it is what it is. But the bottom line is this. Them two young ladies, me personally, I would have sued.
Well, I think that's maybe where they think they're going, and this is why it's so hard to walk this back. One of the things I want to make sure we understand is that once you stick someone in this system, it is so hard to walk it back. Everyone starts to justify their actions rather than admit their mistakes. This is how it always happens because there are ramifications for for being reckless with people's lives.
Absolutely.
And there should be. But quite frankly, you should be more methodical before you try to stick people in this system the way you do and destroy their lives. And it always comes on the back of black and brown people. Always. We're the ones who always have to fight for our right not to be overly associated with being criminalized. And you know, we're looking at last Wednesday's incident. You see how careful they are with considering who should I arrest, for what, all this thoughtfulness, all this, you know, time taking, we're taking our time. We don't get that consideration.
No. Rush to judgment.
And there's often mistakes and bias when you rush to judgment. Because when you're rushing to judgment, you're only looking at me based on what you think.
Exactly.
And so a lot of times your thoughts are wrong.
Right.
And when that happens, the justification drives supreme. And we have to go, you know, working so hard just to try to say, this should have never happened. That was like Michael White case. This boy was charged and he was attacked.
Right.
If their races were reversed, there would have never been a charge. And by the way, that documentary will be coming out, which will go through point by point, fact by fact of what happened.
Right.
And you're going to see some very interesting things. I can't let everything out, but you're going to see what the jury saw.
Right. I was the first one to write him.
Oh, were you?
I was the first one to write him, and I sent my 10 steps, and I sent him my book.
Nice.
And when he came home, we was over at 58th and Greenway, and he was with what's his name, Greg Thompson.
Yes.
And Greg Thompson brought him to me because he told Greg Thompson I wanted to meet him.
Yeah.
And he told me, you don't know what that meant to me. And I just told him, I said, listen, man, you in for a fight of your life now. You're going to see what you built like. That's exactly what I told him. You're going to see what you built like now.
Yeah.
Because it was white privilege.
Totally.
Coming at him.
Yes.
You know, so that's what that was about. So.
And white privilege with really bad behavior that was excused.
Absolutely.
But it was excused. You know?
Yeah.
Everything that had been going on with those high-class gentlemen, as they were called. They were called that in every police report. Gentlemen. Everything. Even though, you know, we were talking about people with coke in their system, 3 times illegal.
Intoxicated.
Imagine if that were you, right?
What?
How would you be described? Would you be described?
What they call thugs and what Hillary Clinton called us?
Super predators.
Super predators.
Right? I mean, all of the narrative and the wordplay made Mike look like he was this violent vigilante out there looking to stab someone.
Right. Tear him down.
On his way to deliver chicken. Right? And these guys were just out there having a good time celebrating and innocently telling people to move and, you know, causing some ruckus, but not much, just gentleman stuff.
Right.
And it is really sickening to me to keep seeing these dichotomies of the way we describe behaviors for black people and behaviors for whites that don't allow their behaviors to be criminal, even though it's the same actions for blacks, but ours are deemed criminal.
Wow.
And I think that it's time to call that out. It's time to keep looking at the discretion that a decision maker in the position of a police officer or a district attorney or a judge has. And we really need to demand better.
I was going to ask you that. What do you think of our representation in the urban community?
What do you mean by when you keep
politically? Because we number one in poverty. We're number one in poverty. 26%, right? It's in the urban community, right? 88% of the people that's incarcerated can't even get out on bail. The reason they still sitting there.
That's right.
So now look in the urban community. You have nothing but black representatives, literally, in our community that represents that area.
Right.
And you've been in there for 4, 5, 6 terms and come and say vote for me again, and we number one in poverty.
I know.
That's crazy.
That is really sad. And Philadelphia is such a robust city. I mean, we're in a tri-state area. We're so connected to so many other areas.
Right.
Why aren't we bringing more Fortune 500 companies here so that people, who have degrees can get jobs that are making, 70,000, 80,000 and more,
right.
and people who are trying to get degrees can be in these positions that those with the degrees are taking up.
Right.
You got people with master's degrees making 35, 40,000 a year because those are the only jobs available. And so for those who are trying to get into, community college or get something, there's no jobs for them because those with the degrees have to take those. And I think we need to, we're Philadelphia, attract more companies, attract more Fortune 500 companies. But aside from that, a lot of these local politicians have to understand how the intersection of criminal justice system really does impede the ability for people to get or become that next CEO or become, a business owner that gets loans abundantly. All of these things cut off those opportunities. And while I've been in this position, I have been trying to show the connection between justice system and poverty, but we are so wrapped up in our beliefs that we get from the news of what justice system is, many people don't want to touch it.
Right.
And what they don't get is many of these folks in our system are not those people that we see on the news. That's a very small portion of people in that jail. Most of these people are in there for quality of life things.
Absolutely.
For lack of investments from their government, lack of connections to really meaningful mental health or basic health care, basic food. I mean, those things, when you show young kids that you don't care about them, you expect them to grow up and be prominent people that care and have empathy for others. I think it's an oxymoron that we have to be real about.
And the position you have, right, where we can watch the news all day and our ears to the street and see a few things, and we see a lot of homicides literally in the community, right? But when your phone rings, okay, you're dealing with the individuals that's charged.
That's right.
With the homicide, whether they did it or not.
Right.
But you're looking from across from you is this youth who's scared to death now, far as this government is concerned, and threw his life away, right? And now the only thing he has or she has is you defending them,
right?
And then they playing against a stacked deck.
Yes.
And you get to see this constantly because we had 500 plus something homicides.
Yeah, and remember, we don't get all those. Many of those don't even touch our systems.
Wow.
Because only about 25 to 30% of those homicides are cleared. And by cleared, they means they have a suspect.
Whoa.
Whether it's the right person or not. So I want people to really understand that.
So explain that. Yeah, explain that.
Well, we're talking about, so we have 500 homicides. Well, we don't have 500 homicides in our system. That is not who comes in.
Right.
Many of these homicides are unsolved. Many. And so what hits our system is about 30% of those 500 homicides. For the shootings where people get shot but don't die, there's less of a clearance. There's only 20% clearance rate. So these are folks that have actually been shot or committing the shootings, and they're not being arrested either. So the question is, why is law enforcement having such a hard time gaining intel? And it's because of their relationship with the communities. If they had better relationships with the communities, maybe they would be able to understand what the root of the issues are, who's really doing what, and solve more crime. But they don't have those. We can talk about they need more technology, they need more this, they need more that. That's fine. But the relationship with the communities, that understanding, that's where you're going to get most of your information from.
I didn't know the numbers was like that.
It's pretty low.
Ridiculous.
And that's on the police department's website. It ain't come from me.
Right.
It's their numbers.
Right. So with what's his name? Turner Nesby.
John McNesby.
John McNesby. Right now.
By the way, where he been? I haven't heard his voice.
Of course, you're not going. You on point with me?
Right?
I was going to say, would he quit?
Right? Because Blue Lives didn't matter on Wednesday.
Right.
They were getting beat and hit and hurt, and it was sad to watch. I actually really felt bad.
I thought he would do a press conference or something.
Me too. He's been doing it. I mean, he called the protesters who went out there to protest David Jones getting shot by the officer. He called them a pack of rabid animals.
Wow.
He's been saying some really heinous things about people who protest cops or even say the word defund the police. Like he's so that word alone is so it angers him more so than the behaviors that led to them saying those words.
Right.
But Wednesday, police were on full attack, and I haven't heard a peep. This is what I'm talking about. It's just always, it's a bigoted way that we continue to skew the narrative. So people will soak in their minds, these are bad, these are good. Treat them differently. They're fungible. These you can't treat like that. You got to give them more protections. Their constitutional rights deserve it. You know?
And a lot of people, like me personally, I can care less who's president, right? Okay. And a lot of people, man, Trump. He the best president. For me, because he exposed everybody.
That's true. He made America great again.
He exposed everybody. I don't care who you are. Right. He exposed everybody. He pulled the curtains back and said, this is who America raised. That's right. I was raised in America by men that think like this. And then y'all watch me grow up, become a realtor, get on TV, do all kinds of stuff, mistreat people, and then run for president and win.
And pay $750 in taxes.
Right. And he exposed America. They wasn't mad at him for what he did, is how he did it. They like, yo, time out, man. You can't keep doing that. And he like, what? Now that he's on his way out the door, right? The rats want to lead the ships now. Now they want to stand up to him now, out the door. And the crazy thing is, all they had to do, Nancy Pelosi, all they had to do, let him go, and then if you wanted to charge him with stuff later on, charge him. How you going to go after him when he still got power to pardon himself? That ain't make no sense. Leave the man alone, and then you could have went and got him. That's another story, though.
It is. Yeah. The way he used his pardons is that's a whole unprecedented way to do things.
Oh, my goodness.
So.
Oh, my goodness. See, the thing is this. One thing I learned about politics, you don't have to be an intelligent person to be a political person.
I guess not, right?
Look at it.
I guess not.
Look at it. I give you a perfect example. How a political party can literally turn their back on a community and hope nobody say anything. I give you a perfect example. Down Kensington, they have a state representative. They have a committee person, they have a ward leader, they have a senator, right? And they have a congressman, all in that area, and of course a mayor, right? But look at Kensington.
I know. It's really
Now look at Kensington. How do you even accept your paycheck knowing that that's your area that you've been charged with to take care of and represent?
It looks like a movie. When I drive through there, and my son played basketball at Sankofa, and when I would drop him off, you know, it was like I was watching a TV show.
Yeah.
I really couldn't believe that this was the reality that was going on.
And it's real disrespectful for the human life, because that's a cry for help.
That is.
Nobody wants to be on drugs.
And not
you
like
understand,
that.
You understand what I'm saying? Nobody really wants to be living with needles in their arms and shooting in their necks and all that stuff. I mean, that means, you know, life circumstances. I understand that. But when you are a representative of that community and you get people to vote for you for that community, in that community, and then you see, I couldn't be a state rep or a senator or a council person for that community and be quiet.
Right.
I couldn't do it. My conscience alone wouldn't allow me to do it.
But I do see Maria Quinones Sanchez trying to speak up and talk about it. I'm really baffled as to why that can't be more cleaned up.
Well, the reason is this, and remember I said this on my show. They got plans for that area. So when they do come through, and the way they're going to do it with the bulldozers, you ain't going to be so mad because
it was a mess.
It need to be cleaned.
You smart guy.
Yeah. That's why I'm not a politician. So with that note being said right there, I want to thank you for coming. We appreciate having you here, and I love the conversation. I can tell by my producer smiling behind the mask. So that was pretty cool right there.
I'm glad you see him smiling. He's smizing with his eyes, right?
Yeah. And you gave us some great information. That statistics too, you know, and we want to educate people. We don't want to just entertain people. We want to educate people, and the people that's watching this, because you know we Facebook Live and all that other stuff, and what she just did, she just gave you the heartbeat and the pulse of the urban community and the justice system. If you pay attention, she ain't hate on nobody or nothing. She just told you pure facts. This is what happened. This is what I said to them, and this is what their response was to me.
Right.
Period. So on that note, I want to thank you for coming.
Thank you.
And if you need, you can tell my audience how they can reach you, get in touch with you, help you, do anything you need.
Yes. So please go to our website, www.phillydefender.org. It has information as to how you can get in touch with people. If you don't know what's going on with your case because courts have been shut down, it's been really challenging trying to reach out and connect with people when we've lost contact. So please go to that website or call our office, 215-568-3190. If you don't know what's going on with your case, you don't know who your lawyer is, please give us a call because we want to make sure we connect with people.
And there you have it. I'm Tracey L. Fisher, unapologetic. Thank you.
Thank you.